In 3, 2, 1. This is Acting Mastery. I'm Ben Matthews. In this episode, we're thrilled to welcome Sonya Marturano as our guest. Sonya is the founder of Random Management, a premier acting agency based in Sydney with more than a quarter century of experience in nurturing and representing talent. Recently, Sonya has expanded her horizon by creating Meraki Entertainment, a boutique management company dedicated to serving high-profile working actors. Today's episode was recorded live during one of our industry talk nights at the Acting Mastery Studio in Bondi Junction. Sonya shares invaluable insights into the evolving landscape of talent management, the importance of fostering genuine relationships in the industry, and what it takes to thrive as an actor in today's competitive environment. I'm Ben Matthews, for those of you I don't know. Welcome to Acting Mastery, to our first industry talk night for 2024. And we could not be more thrilled to welcome Sonya Marturano. Sonya, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, and I'm really grateful for everyone wanting to come and have a listen.
Well,
I'm very excited.
We're very excited to hear from you. I thought maybe we might begin by getting you to tell us a bit about how Random Management began.
Okay, so I started as an agent probably about 27 years ago, and I had my own little agency out in Western Sydney, and I used to look after a lot of young kids and develop them. And then a friend of mine started working with Random that Mark Morrissey owned at the time, and they said, do you mind if we call Sonya in to come for a few days a week and assist? And had a meeting with Mark. Half an hour later, he puts his hand forward and says, when can you start? That was 16 years ago.
Wow.
So we started Random with children, and then as the children got to become adults, I had to pass them over to friends that were agents, which was terrible because I got so attached to people. And then I said to Mark, I really think we should, start working with adults because I don't want to lose my talent. And that's how the adult side of Random was born. Okay. And then while I was working with Morrissey, there was another agency there called Warehouse. And Warehouse closed down at a certain time, and they offered me a lot of the talent from there. So I took on about 8 actors, which really kind of catapulted the business forward. And one of those actors was Takaya Honda, who worked on Neighbours for 5 years.
Yeah, wow.
And a few other actors that worked in bits and pieces. And then I had my own that I'd nurtured for years that came up. And then in the last 4 years, I took Random over as my own business, and I split it into Talent Box, which is now children,
Yep.
and Random, which is adults. So that's how it all started.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
How many clients do you have on your books, both at Random and at Talent Box?
Oh, Talent Box, we've got a Melbourne division and a Sydney division. Mm-hmm. So I don't have many in Sydney, probably about 60, if that. Okay. But Melbourne does have more, probably about 80 to 100.
Oh, wow.
Random has about 120.
Yep.
And that's musical theatre and film and television. So we've got another agent in Melbourne who looks after our musical theatre division.
And how do you, I think this is a question that a lot of actors have when it comes to agents, is how do you like to work with your actors? In other words, how much contact do you like to have from them, with them?
Yeah.
What are your expectations when you're bringing on a client?
This is a tricky question because every single person's an individual. So somebody might land a job, a leading role in a TV series or a feature, and now all of a sudden they need more of my attention. They need me to, negotiate their contracts, make sure they're okay on set. They might call up with some issues, so we communicate a little bit more. There's some actors that I might not have seen during the year for about 6 months, and they'll say, hey, do you want to have a coffee catch up and, let's get together. I like to communicate, but you have to understand that if we did that every day with every actor, you wouldn't be getting any castings. No. Because that's really what we should focus on. And unless it's something really important to tell your agent, a lot of agent friends that I have, their opinion is don't call me unless you have something to talk to me about, because we're busy. And that is true. Everyone is really busy trying to get you work. So I do have relationships that, some are closer than others depending on how long I've had some people. I've had since they were 8 years old, and now they're in their early 20s, and I've got to know the families. So, I get invited to dinner sometimes.
Nice.
I've been to 21st birthdays for some of my clients, and, all sorts of things. So I guess it just depends on the time of the year and, I guess how much time we've got. Yeah, I like to get to know my clients because then it's easier to work with them.
What do you look for when you're bringing a client on board? How do you make that decision?
Yeah, look, a lot of the time it's talent that stands out. We don't like to have too many people that look the same because now you've created competition within your own agency. The same as if a director was hiring someone on set and they're going to work with them for 6 months. I have to tell you that I think about the same thing. Can I work with you for the next 12 months? Yeah. Because some people are...
Or 12 years.
Or 12 years, or 20, who knows?
That's right, yeah.
It just depends, I guess, on the relationship and how you speak to your agent. If you speak at your agent, they are going to get a little bit, oh, okay, I didn't know I was your personal assistant. We're your agent and we're there for any questions, of course. But the common question, what's happening? Right. This is what everybody asks. Yeah. What's happening? So, a great friend of mine who's a wonderful agent used to say, well, let me get my crystal ball out and let me tell you. Because we don't know. From week to week, a new brief comes out. I mean, we know some projects that are being done because we hear about them. Yep. But a lot of things just come through as a brief and we're like, oh, okay, great project. And then you start, putting everyone forward. So we can't tell you, we can't predict that.
Could you tell us a little bit about the process of being briefed? How does it work on your end as an agent when a brief comes through?
Okay, so a project will come through. We might not have heard about it. We might have heard about it. If we want to know more information, I'll ring up the casting director and go, what is it that you're really looking for with this character? I might think one of my clients is really suitable. So, we might have a little chat and it gives me a chance to connect. And I guess you look at the roles and have a look at who your talent is and who's suitable. Now, just because your friend went to a casting and you read for them, they might be Asian and you might be white. So, these days, a lot of the briefs that come through will say all ethnicities, but we all know we're living in a time where, diversity is a thing, and I've seen it go the other way around. Many years ago when I started, I was always looking for diverse talent, but I couldn't get them in the room. Right. So it took a long time for that to shift, and now it's shifted. So I say to everyone who's diverse, do your thing, because now is your time, and that's starting to shift again. So if it says open ethnicities, and then in the brief description, it says they must, speak Arabic or whatever, or Mandarin, we will assume. So then we have to ring up and ask the question because it's wasting everyone's time. If I get my client to audition for something and they're not right for it, they've wasted time getting a reader or getting private lessons. It all costs money. So, yeah.
And how many actors would you put forward? If you had more than one that was right, kind of in the right ballpark for the role, how do you make that choice?
I think that I always look at who is likely to get this role and who is really suited to this role. So if someone's coming up and they don't have enough experience, I will put my best people forward and then I'll put someone in, generally 3. Yep. Maybe 4, but it depends because I wouldn't take too many people that are the same, so I don't have that problem. Right. But, obviously you might get 2 girls that are blonde, but 2 of them might be completely different. So they might have different skills. One might be able to do boxing and martial arts and the other girl's a dancer or whatever it might be. So, everyone has different skills, and if I'm deciding whether to take both on, I will always think about, well, what's this person got that this person doesn't, so that now we don't have competition. But 2 and 3 are okay. But once you go over that, it's very, very hard. someone misses out.
When you receive actors' self-tapes, before you send them off to casting, do you watch them?
Yes.
And do you ever give feedback to your actor? Do you ever ask them to retape if you don't think they're...
There's certain actors that are at a level that if they're commercials and that, I don't need to watch these tapes.
Yep.
And I allow them. Like, I don't have restrictions on my actors, but I always tell my actors, if you are unsure, let me have a look at it first and let's chat about it.
Yeah.
Some people handle criticism really well and want you to tell them if it's not good so they can redo it, and some people don't. So they're like, what do you mean? I thought that was really good. which part was it? So can I edit it out? Or another thing is a lot of actors will send 7 or 8 versions of the tape. That's way too many. We don't have the time. You know, your 2 or 3, if you can't figure out what your 2 and 3 best tapes are from all the scenes that you've done that day, you know, you need to think about that. Because, yeah, we like, I like 2 or 3 max. If you don't know by then, you know, watching 8, you're just going to get confused. Yeah.
How would you say Random differs from other agencies out there? Does it differ from other agencies?
I think so, because we're, well, at the moment we have 2 agents. Some agencies are bigger. I guess we're more boutique. There will be some changes coming up in the next probably month or so where we're going to open up a management division, which is a different company. So our top clients will go there, and then there'll be more opportunity in Random to take more people on, and another agent is coming on board. I think it's more the boutique, and I think a lot of people, I always say to people, so what made you choose me? Because, you know, you might think, well, why did she choose me? But you're choosing me. Yeah. So there's a reason that you've chosen me, and I like to know what that reason is. And a lot of people say, because I can have a really authentic conversation over coffee and not feel nervous, because you hear me. So I don't know what other agencies do. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I guess, you know, there's really corporate types, and then there's boutique types, and we all do the same thing, I guess. It's like a hairdresser. You pick who's right for you, and you keep going back until they mess your hair up.
It's really great analogy. Maybe, given that you're about to open a management company, and management is something that's relatively new or not really done in Australia yet, could you maybe explain to everyone the difference between an agency and a management company?
So an agency, basically, from what I can see with the US as well, a lot of work comes through the agent.
Right.
Because they're constantly looking for briefs and you know, putting you up for roles and looking for different things that are coming through. A manager kind of manages your career. So with a manager, you have a different relationship. It's I guess, a little bit more personal.
Yeah.
And then a manager will sit down and create some kind of plan, I guess, moving forward for your career. They will try and set you up with collaborations, whether it be UK management, US management, New Zealand, wherever it might be. And it's more personal, I think, and there's more time involved because there's less people. So, you know, a management company that has 200-300 people in it and one agent, one manager, I don't know how they do that, but yeah, it's a bit hard.
And so that will be for clients you've worked with for a long time?
Yeah. So any clients that we've had on, you know, features or ongoing TV series, or they've got US rep and we've already got the teams, or their celebrity status, we'll go in there, because what I'm finding is that the same people get requested most of the time. So if I've got people who've moved up and they've broken through and now they're working, when I pitch those people out for a job and I pitch 2-3 new people, they will always go for the same people. Right. So I felt like moving them out into a different company will create more opportunity for people here that haven't broken through yet.
Would you consider yourself an agent who likes to work with developmental actors that are just starting out, maybe haven't had maybe have just come fresh out of drama school, or maybe they haven't even gone to drama school, they've gone to acting classes? Do you work with developmental actors?
That's all I've worked with. Like, a lot of my clients have come from I guess, high school where they've done a little bit of drama and now they're wanting to make a career of it. So then I like to set them up with different organisations like yourself to develop them, and I watch that over time just to see where they're at, and then if there's anything else that we feel they should add, or if they want to go to film school or whatever it might be, we discuss these things as they go. I've had grads from all the different institutions, obviously, you know, and I have got a few celebrity clients that have come through, but mainly all my clients are clients that I've worked from the ground up. That's why I get so attached, because I'm watching it grow like a garden, and it's like, oh, we'll put a rose there and, you know, a cherry tree here. It's like that for me. You know, I don't know what anybody else, you know, how they look at their business, but it's not just a money-making thing. Obviously, we all need to make money. And I think anybody who does this because, you know, of that reason, they must be crazy, because this business is so unpredictable and you have to love it. And it's a huge responsibility for me to take on your career and have it for 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, because I feel so responsible. And if nothing's happening, sometimes I'll sit down with my clients and say, you know, maybe try a different agency and just see if something changes, because, you know, at the end of the day, I want you to work. So it can get really difficult with the different markets, I think.
For actors looking to apply to Random, what do they need to have? What do they need to have ready?
In the past, I've taken on a lot more clients that are just starting out, that haven't really had much screen experience or, you know, even lessons, to be honest. I won't take someone like that on now unless they've got, you know, incredible martial arts experience or something, and we can train them, because it's too hard to work that too many at the same time. But I look for someone who's had training, or they've got on-set experience and they've got some kind of show reel. A lot of people think that you have to spend thousands of dollars and create a professional show reel using scenes from different movies and, you know, making it like you're creating your own film. But a lot of the time, one great self-tape that makes my hair stand up, then I know I have to have this person. So I guess when you're watching your tape back, you have to be really honest with yourself and look at it and go, how do I feel about that? Does that do something for me? And if you don't know, then you should ask someone, and choose that tape, send it out with a headshot, a CV and a tape, and you know, keep your emails short. They're more likely to get read.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then how do you begin to make that decision about who you want to bring on?
So then once I've had a look at their material, I call them in and have a meeting. And we usually have about a 1 hour meeting and we discuss everything. And then, you know, I tell them to go away and think about it and go and see a few different agents before you make that decision. And then if we decide, we sign a 1 year contract and get all the paperwork done, put you on all the platforms, and then we're ready to roll.
Got
Pretty
it.
much.
What happens after 1 year? Do they sign another 1 year contract or?
Yeah, our contract rolls over, but at any time you can send me an email and say, Sonya, you know, I'm moving on, and that's fine. Like, it doesn't need to be messy. Nobody wants it to be messy.
No. Do you ever let go of clients, and what goes into those sorts of decisions?
Yeah, probably. Like I said, I used to work with, you know, in the same building as a big management company, and I saw this happen every year. There's like a cull. And this is not because you're terrible, it's because they need to make room, because now they want to sign new grads, or, you know, they need more room in the agency, and we all kind of allocate how many people per agent. So I hadn't done that for a long time, and I found myself working nearly 16 hours a day. And then I had to look at my agency and say, okay, now be realistic. How do you want it to work? Like, who's going to work? And the ones that, there's some people who get really excited. They'll do 1 year at a drama school, they'll sign up and they're ready and they're pumped, and nothing happens in 12 months and you never hear from them again. So unless you chase them, if I send you an audition and I have to send you the audition twice, text you, try and call you, email you, and you do not respond because you're in Africa but you haven't told me, we've got a problem. So you could be on the culling list, you know.
Yeah.
I have got rid of, that's a horrible word, I've let some children go. I've let some children go in the past because it's been really difficult working with the parents. So my advice would be for everybody, you need to be easy to work with.
Yeah.
If you're difficult and your agent signs you this week and for the next month they get 5 emails a day and 3 missed phone calls and text messages and even on your social media, it smells of desperation, and it's really heavy for us, that kind of personality. And if I was choosing, I probably wouldn't choose someone like that to work with, because you've got to you've got to make time for everyone.
Right.
And everyone's at that same stage. So just don't be too needy, I think.
Yeah. Very good advice.
Yeah.
And with your clients who are booking work, what have you noticed about them, about their careers, how they manage themselves as actors? Is there anything that you've noticed that is a kind of a common denominator among those actors?
All of the people, I think, in the last 2 years that have booked roles seem to have calmed down a lot before the role came through.
Okay, right.
One of my guys that I signed from New Zealand, I did an online workshop during COVID, and he wasn't even in the workshop. But because I didn't have a Maori boy, I really liked his picture. And I said, hey, to the organisers, I really want to meet with this person. And we met, and he didn't get back for a while because apparently there was a storm. And I was like, I don't know if this person's going to be good to work with. We finally met and we kicked it off, and I signed him. And I think it was within 6 months, they'd been looking everywhere worldwide for this role in Nautilus, and he got it. Wow. And he wasn't even trained. So, these things happen, and that doesn't mean you shouldn't have training. He got very lucky, and he had something that the others didn't have. Yeah. So I guess...
What do you think that something was?
I think that he brought this energy to the character that the director had been looking for. I mean, he obviously had that look, but he had this energy. And I think with my actor, without naming him to everybody, he has a really stoic approach. He's kind of a bit mysterious. He's really chilled. He doesn't get nervous. Nobody on that set knew he hadn't worked before. They went to dinner with the producers, and one of the producers said, so, hey, what have you done before? And he said, this is my first gig. And the producer said, so what have you done before? And he said, no, this is my first gig. So I think they're a bit surprised because, he was amazing, obviously. Yeah. I think it's that calm and focus, and they have a goal and a plan. Where am I going? What am I doing? What do I need to get there? It's one thing to know where I'm going. Oh, I'm going there, but what do I need to take with me? As an actor, what do you need to do to get there? And what type of an actor are you? Do you know your type? What do you need to work on? And if you've done everything and you're not landing any roles, is there something else you can work on to add to your skill set that gives you that X factor? Like, how are you going to stand out? Yeah. Make the audition memorable, I guess. Surprise them.
What do you think makes for a good self-tape, given that you've watched a lot of them?
Yeah, okay. Great lighting, good sound. Don't put your computer here so we look up your nose and you would be surprised how many really good actors do this when they're in a hurry. They'll get a reader to read from the screen and the computer is taping them. It's your first impression. First of all, your photograph, but then your tape. If they've never seen you before, you need to wow them. So if this isn't good, they'll be next. They'll watch about 5 seconds if you're lucky. Yeah. Next. It's like a dating site, So you need to stand out, and you need to think about what makes your tape stand out. And if the sound's terrible and you can hear dogs barking and all the traffic behind you, and you've taped it outside, it's going to be distracting. Yeah.
Do you think, what do you think that actors need to understand about this industry that maybe they don't?
That's a hard question. I think as an actor, you prepare yourself to be an actor, like a dancer trains their whole life. They graduate and now they have an agent and they're looking for work. So you need to know your industry. So a dancer, if they want to do musical theatre, they go and watch all these shows, and they might do classes with that choreographer because they could cast them in that show. So you need to be a little bit strategic. Make connections, network, go and watch films, low budget feature films that are filming in all our smaller cinemas. I mean, go and support them, go and meet the directors, introduce yourself, tell them how much you like their work, you know, if you're really honest about it. So I think it's very important to network, but understand your industry and really understand your type. So it's not just like, I'm an actor. What type of an actor am I, and what do I fit into? Not just every audition that comes up. I mean, commercials are one thing. We can put you up for anything, that's fine. But when it's a role, it's quite specific. And if I've been working as an agent for 27 years, just because I've got someone yelling here, put me through, because my friend did this audition, if I don't think you're right, I'm not going to put you through. Because the casting director will ring me and say, what are you doing? If I've got a track record that's been great, and now all of a sudden I feel obligated and feel bad for this actor, I won't do it. You know, unless I know 100% we're good for this and this role is amazing and you've nailed it, you're going to shoot yourself in the foot. And, you know, same with the US market. People do a course and they're like, I'm ready for US rep. They don't even have a visa. You know, I talk to agents and managers there all the time, and you're competing with everything over there. It's a huge market. It's like if an American came to Australia and they're competing with all the Australians, they don't even have the accent. It's the same as when we go there. So you need to be on top of your game and ready, and know what you're looking for, that you've researched into that on how to get there. You know, an agent is one step, but then what do you give your agent? What are the tools your agent has besides a photograph and one self-tape? Have you done any work? And if your agent doesn't get you work, how are you going to get your own? Like, make friends with young people who are making films and get on set, get that experience.
How important is training?
Very important for me. I think some people have natural gifts. Like, you know, my actor that, you know, but he'd done maybe 15 low budget features and short films, so he had on-set experience. It's like training.
Totally.
So
100%.
You know, I did hear an American coach once, he said they were casting for this film and the director was adamant that he wanted like a military sergeant type to tell the lead actor something. So all he had to do is come out of the office, get a drink of water or coffee, I can't remember, and turn around and say the line. So they got this real sergeant who was, you know, very masculine and stoic in his approach and appearance. And every time he turned around, his hand would shake. So because he'd had no experience, he got overwhelmed by speaking to this, you know, A-list celebrity. And he couldn't, they did so many takes, he couldn't, then they had to hire an actor to replace this guy. So, you know, this is what happens.
Why training is important.
Training is very important,
Do you work with US rep at all? Do you have clients with American representation? And how does that all work?
So with the US rep, we pitch clients to our contacts in the US all the time, and there's certain things that they're after. They may have too many people like that. If you know, even if your clients just come off a major TV series that's on Netflix or whatever, they either have too many people in that competition, or your client doesn't have a visa, or they're just not up to scratch with their US accent. There's a lot of things that come into it. We do have a number of our clients with US rep. I have been connecting with some UK agents so that we have that opportunity for our clients to work in the UK, and some New Zealand agents, because I think you should stick to what you're good at in your own territory, and then let the other professionals do their job. So I'm very much about collaboration.
How is that becoming more common that actors are also finding opportunities in the UK, Australian actors, and obviously Canada was a big one for a long time.
So for me, I've had a few clients try both of these markets. I had a girl that lived in the UK for nearly 2 years. She's back. She didn't land a job. She didn't get rep. Why? I don't know. She's great. I've got another girl still over there trying. I've had 2 of my clients that went to Canada. One of my clients went there and lived there for 2 years. We had him with great rep in Canada. And the Canadian reps seem to like you to be there. A little bit different, yeah. Right. So they do that whole 2-year thing and live there. And just before he was coming back, he got a little role on a feature film. So then it was like the whole thing, do I stay, do I come back? And, you know, he came back here and within a month he landed a huge feature role here. So, and one of my girls just came back in October. She was there for nearly 10 months. She went in the room, she auditioned for huge projects. I guess it takes time, like it does here. So you've got to be prepared to stick it out.
Yeah, be in it.
You know, when you make that decision to move to another country, you need to do exactly what you would be doing here, over there.
Given that this is an industry where there is just so much that's outside an actor's control, what can actors focus on?
Themselves. I think that find your people, you know, find your community, go and spend time, whether you go into classes and do, you know, scene work, you're exercising that muscle. Dancers finish dancing and they still go and do, you know, work with all these choreographers to keep fit, because if the role came up tomorrow, they could pull a muscle. I know you're not going to pull a muscle, but you might not be ready when that audition comes up. So just do your thing so that when we come to you, you're ready. If you've stopped for 6 months and you haven't told me, and something comes through and, you know, you're just not, like, you freak out. And that's when you go into that state, you know, that, oh my God, you know, this is so much pressure. It shouldn't be. It should just be a conversation on screen and you're like, okay, next. That's all you should be doing. The pressure makes it, I think the pressure creates the blockages, to be honest.
When do you think actors should think about heading overseas? Is that something that, do you think there's a lot of actors that decide to head to the US or Canada or UK before they're ready?
Yes, I've seen it over the last probably 15, 16 years a lot. And look, I had one actor that was really good and I was so excited about him in Australia, and he found someone online and signed 5 years in a contract. I had to jump off the team because they didn't want me on the team and he couldn't work. Well, I wasn't going to work him in Australia if he's staying there. So he signed a 5-year contract. 2 years in, he's calling me, how do I get out of this? So there are lots of agencies here and there are lots of agencies in the US. If you don't know who the high-end, like the top-tier agents are, you could land with anybody, like you can here. So it's not just, oh, wow, I got an agent. Do your research, look at their website, see who's working. And if you're going to go over to the US, do you have a visa? What's your accent like? Have you got experience so that now your agent can pitch you to the US and they can say, okay, they've just been a lead on a TV series and, you know, they're blowing up over here. You need to sign them. So, you know, if we don't have something to talk about, it's really difficult, really hard.
What is your opinion on the current state of the Australian industry at the moment? I know
I'm excited.
You're excited?
Yeah, this year started really good. Look, last year we had a lot of problems with the whole strikes and all of that, but this year has started to move. Like, I've got a few clients already, you know, landing some roles on different projects. Our musical theatre side is just booming. Like, it's taking off for us. I think that a lot of work will come to Australia. I have this feeling that a lot more is coming here, and we're getting US projects cast here. So we've got some amazing casting directors in this country that, you know, are casting some of the big projects that if you're with US rep, you know, you're auditioning. So, you know, if you're just starting out and I guess you're still working at it, you don't need to be in America, but you really do need to have a good American accent if you want to audition for those things. You can't just wing it, you know, because you watch Netflix. It's not going to work.
Why do you think musical theatre is booming?
I don't know. Like after COVID, I think because people love going to the theatre, and
Right.
after COVID, I think that industry kind of froze for a while, and then it just started to kick off, and it's just taken off. I think people just want to get out of the house, and a lot of people appreciate performing. Watching these musicals, they're amazing. I've been back a few times. I think 3 times I watched Tina. Before it goes.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. I've watched Hamilton and I've watched Beauty and the Beast, and all our Australian musicals are amazing. And I guess it's somewhere to go. Like even for actors, they like to go and watch these shows and mingle with everybody in the industry on the opening nights. They love to go and get out and watch them. But the musical theatre side of things, for some reason, is just taking off.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you work with casting directors? How does that relationship work between an agent and a casting director?
I look at it like I'm the actor and the casting director's the agent.
I see.
I see it as that kind of relationship. I think it's good for me to go to them when I've got something that is decent, rather than go, oh, you got to see this, you got to see that, what's happening, like that. When they see my name, they're not going to pick up. So I've been doing this for quite a long time now and developed some great relationships. I go to events, where casting directors will be, like, the Casting Guild and, different things. We do Zoom meetings with, the different organisations. So I've developed personal relationships with some of them because of the time that we've known each other, and we've been at certain events that were a little bit more personal, like because of family and stuff.
Right.
But I think with a casting director, they want to discover new talent.
Yeah.
They love it. But you can't send them 10 people to look at once.
Right.
You need to know who's coming up, who you're working with, who's the next one. It's like a chessboard, really. Like, who do you move now? And they really appreciate it when we're being honest with them, and if a casting comes through and we're not putting 30 people forward, they appreciate that, because they've got to watch those tapes. And trust you, I guess. I think my relationships with the casting directors are professional.
Right.
We don't hang out and go to the bar.
Yeah, got it.
Yeah.
And do you, so you would only put forward people, obviously, when you think they're right and when they're ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Look, sometimes you'll have a wild card. And that happens a lot with the younger people, because I guess they don't expect the younger people to have too many credits. And while they're seeing this person here, I know this person is at a really high level, so I will put them through at the same time, or say to the casting director, I know you've just seen this tape, but I've got this client that's amazing, that I think would be great. Have a look at this self-tape that they've done for something else. So I'll sneak it in. I won't do that with 5 people though.
Right.
Like you really have to be honest with them, and then they listen to you. Next time you call, they go, oh, quick, send, I want to see that person and I'm excited. So because they know you've been truthful all the way through.
Yeah, got that.
Yeah.
What's the percentage of TV commercial auditions that your actors go out for versus film and television roles?
I think it's a lot higher.
Yeah.
I say to my clients, because, a few clients will come in and they don't have that many credits, but they say, I don't want to do commercials. I don't want to expose myself and, show this face off too much. And that's all fine. But if the casting director doesn't know you, if you go and do a few auditions, now they see your face and they're getting to know your personality through your tapes.
Right.
So now they're casting for something else, and I put you forward for an acting job. They go, oh, that's Timothy that auditioned for KFC. He was great. Let's have a look at his tape. So it's really about developing those connections, and I do encourage my actors to do commercials. Obviously, you choose what you want to do.
Yeah.
And you don't, there's a lot of people that'll go on Star Now and different websites, which are fantastic for people to build their CVs, but you have to communicate with your agent, because if you get a job on there for McDonald's and you get paid $500, now there's a KFC ad wanting to pay you $8,000, but you can't do it for 3 years because your face is all over McDonald's.
Right.
So you need to be aware of these things. I think people get excited about the job. but commercials are definitely a lot more come through, and I'm starting to see a lot more theatre and stage come through, which is great.
That's great.
Because some of our actors like to do that as well.
Yeah, do you think that actors should be doing co-op shows and that kind of thing?
If you don't have a lot of experience,
Mm-hmm.
and some people have a lot of experience and they still do them,
Yeah.
because they just want to, keep
Act.
the machine working.
Yeah.
So they just want to tell stories and, be seen, I guess, by casting. A lot of casting directors get invited to a lot of these plays, and I think they're a good thing to do if you get the opportunity, for sure.
You spoke earlier about type and the importance of actors understanding their type or their brand.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you have about how an actor can figure that out for themselves?
I think you need to know yourself.
Yeah.
If you don't know yourself, you're inventing a character, or you're trying to be like somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
You might watch a film and go, oh yeah, I'm going to be that person. They're playing a character.
Right.
So you've got to be able to take on roles. But if you know who you are and what your abilities are and how far you're prepared to go and where you can go with your acting, then you'll discover what your type is. And when you audition, you're going to fit in well with that. As long as you're not trying too hard to be somebody that you think they want. You need to give them what you've developed. And then that might stand out because the others are trying to be someone. So I think you shouldn't be afraid of being an individual and authentic within yourself and go, this is who I am, and I'm confident with that. And that comes across in your tape, that confidence, and we believe you. So if you're putting it on, the camera doesn't lie. So if your agent can see it, everyone's going to see it. So, yeah.
And then should actors have materials that reflect their type?
I think so.
So a headshot that reflects their type, or the headshot really just
Headshots
needs
should
to
be,
reveal
I think,
themselves?
like a blank canvas that everyone can work with.
Right.
Because if you go a certain type on your headshot and you've been developing, and now all of a sudden you can do this character and that character, like your headshot shows only one type.
Right.
I think be yourself on your headshot, and then when you are auditioning for projects, you've got to be I guess honest in those tapes. So that reflects who you are as an actor. I don't think that, there was a period 4 or 5 years ago where people were getting dressed up as policemen and doctors and nurses, and I was like, what is going on? Who's doing this? It's not necessary.
No.
Yeah.
But then their self-tapes, their audition, their self-tapes and their show reel should also reflect roles that they could play.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
That's where it should reflect who you can be as an actor. And, if you don't know who that is, you've got to, I guess, work on different types of roles with your coaches, or, whether you do one-on-ones or classwork, experiment. So to see where you sit comfortably, like if you're pushing something and it feels really uncomfortable, sometimes people say work through that.
Right.
But I kind of go, well, why don't you work with what you're really good at and be amazing, rather than pushing yourself in a direction which you in your gut don't feel right about. That's my opinion. Others might have a different opinion. I just think work with your strengths, and definitely have those scenes for your agent to be able to put forward when those roles come up.
How many do you think they should have?
So if they've got a UK accent, a US accent, and an Australian accent, 3.
Okay, great.
So, and when you do a US tape, kind of know that that's the market you're aiming for. So watch those shows and think about what you're doing in that scene, because that's the market that we're now pitching you to. If you're going to do a scene for Home and Away, that's going to be very different to possibly auditioning for, a big Marvel series. And if you're doing something for the UK, depending on what you're auditioning for again, you're going to watch some of those shows and see how you could work towards making that a really strong tape to fit into that market.
And just to be clear, those 3 scenes shouldn't be the same scene?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
got that.
Yeah.
And comedy and drama? Or, I mean, obviously some actors are more inclined towards comedy, some are more inclined towards drama.
Yeah. I've had some people who really, really love drama, and when they're doing a really intense drama piece, I actually want to laugh because they are so funny.
Yeah.
And you kind of go, you really need to be doing comedy,
Right.
because you've made this scene, this horror scene look funny.
Yeah.
So
You take it so seriously.
Yeah. It's like, and once again, if they knew who they were, they'd know that because all their friends would have been laughing at them at school because that's who they are.
Right.
So, work with that.
Yeah, really interesting. What advice would you have for young actors that are just starting out in terms of getting into the industry?
Yeah. Don't pitch yourself to casting directors until you're ready. Don't pitch yourself to agents until you're ready. Mm-hmm. If you're really starting and you haven't developed the strength yet to really, be up here, and we know that when we see a tape and the level of training and on-set experience. If you're just starting out, work on it before, because you might get an agent that is going to be at your level at that time, and then you've grown 8 months later and you're stuck with this agent who only does extra work and bit parts and commercials. Nothing wrong with that, but that is their business model. So now you're here, and then obviously, you can move if you want to move. But I think I would prefer someone come to me when they're ready. Yeah. And, they make me excited about their work and make me excited about taking them on. And I'm like, this person's ready to work. Because there's a lot of management companies out there who only want to work with people who are working because they're counting numbers, They don't have time to develop you.
Right.
And this is what becomes so difficult for me because I invest in that. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the time, you lose out. You've worked with someone for 3 years, you've lifted them up here, and, this is why I'm doing another business.
Got that.
Yeah. So I think you should be ready. Train, get some strong takes, get professional headshots. And that doesn't mean my friend's learning photography and we've gone to the park and, that's okay in the beginning, but when you're ready to pitch to agents or you're ready to, for your profile to be seen by casting, you need to be professional and then they'll look at you seriously.
Right. When an actor is submitting to you or even after you rep them, when they're submitting to you, how many scenes should they send through to you and how long should those scenes be? 2 to 3 minutes. Okay. Yeah, 2 to 3 minutes.
And how many would you like to see? 2, but 3 maximum. Mm-hmm. So if I've seen, and always put your strongest link first. Mm-hmm. Because if I watch the first one and it takes me 15 seconds for you to even come out on the screen because you're roller skating or something, I'm going to be like, oh, what's the next one? Right. So I haven't even got the patience, to be honest, to sit there and wait. Yep. So your best foot should be put forward. So your best link first, and then the agent is inclined to watch, let me see what else they've got. If you've got a Vimeo account, and I've done this myself, just make sure that when you send a link, it doesn't allow them to see the 30 other tapes that you did 3 years ago.
Yeah, right.
So try and have that set up properly. I didn't know how to do this either. I was sending tapes. But just be really mindful of what they can see when you send it through.
Yeah, very good advice.
Yeah.
Do you want to see just Australian accent scenes or Australian and American, or basically whatever they can do?
I think where they're at.
Right.
So if they're just starting out and they're building and they want to get some work here in Australia and they're concentrating on this market, then send me your best Australian scene.
Yeah.
If you are planning to go to the US in the next 3 years, and this is something that I should be aware of when we first meet and we chat, send me a US tape. Let me see how strong your accent is. Let me see if I feel that I'd like to work on this and submit it for some of my friends who are managers over there to have a look and give me advice. And I can do that too, just to get a bit of advice.
Right.
But when we're actually pitching, we want to pitch the best work. So it needs to be strong.
Do you want to see contrasting tapes or tapes that all reflect the same.
I love contrasting.
I love contrast.
Because once I've seen you do one thing, I don't need to see you do it 3 times to know
Right.
if I want to sign you. So if you do a tape for, say, Home and Away or Neighbours, and I loved what you did, I don't need to see three more. I'd really like to see what else you can do. Even if you can do like stunt work or boxing or fight choreography, you should have snippets of this to give to your agent, because we often get asked, you know, if some of our clients can do that kind of work. I signed someone pretty much because they did all the stunt work in a film that I watched and I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And they were just starting out in acting, and you know, it's like an amazing actor that's upcoming, and that's why I signed them.
Right.
You know, they blew me away with what they could do.
Wow.
So I thought, well, if they can do that, we can work on this.
Yeah.
And then we've got an amazing package.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
When a client does book a job, how does it work in terms of contract negotiation on your side of things?
It all depends on, once again, how much they've worked previously
Right.
to what we can ask for.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I've had some actors who got their first gig and they've worked on set with someone. So we've negotiated the contract and, you know, they're pretty much on basic, you know, we might have got a little bit extra for them. And all of a sudden, they talk to the lead actor and they say, I don't have a driver. I don't know how to have a driver. We're 6 months into filming. Can you get me a driver? No. So, you know, these things can be negotiated depending, I guess, on whether you do have transport in the beginning. We can discuss that. If you don't tell me that, then we have a problem later.
Right.
When you say, my mum's car, she's taken it. I don't have a car now.
Yeah, wow.
So this happens. You'd be
Yeah.
surprised. And
Believe you.
yeah. And I guess, you know, also with wages, it will be on how much experience you've had. So if you've done 2 or 3 different gigs and then, you know, your level goes up. So, or we can ask. I always ask. They can just say no.
Right.
So I always go in and ask a lot more than what they offer.
Yeah.
And then I need to convince them why. So, and if I'm really confident with my actor, then I'll tell them why they should. You know, there's other things to negotiate, especially if going overseas, you know, it's, you know, how they're flying, who they're flying with, you know, their accommodation, insurances, everything. You've got to check everything.
Yeah.
Sometimes when there's low budget films, the producers and directors might negotiate points
Right.
with the sales of the film that the actor will then make money from. So there's all different things that you can do. If it's a complex project and it's huge, I bring a lawyer on board.
Yeah, got it.
Because there may be something I might miss, and I'd hate to do that to someone who's, you know, just about to do the biggest thing of their life.
Yeah.
And, you know, then they go on set and they find out so-and-so's getting this and they're getting this, you know. And that does happen if you don't try.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What sort of commission does an agent take?
We're on 10% and 15% for commercials.
Yep.
12% for voiceovers. Different agencies take different commissions. We like to keep it at the 10% because that's a standard agency fee. We're an agency.
Yeah.
Management can charge anything up to 60% if they want to.
Wow.
It's managers,
Yeah, right.
you know.
Yeah.
And it depends whether they're going to deliver
On that 60%.
on that 60%.
Yeah.
So they could just, you know, have a lot of working clients and do really well and not have to do much, because I think once you get to a certain level in this business and you have A-list clients, the work comes to you because you've got all these directors, writers, producers coming in with all these scripts wanting this person and that person. So you'll hear about what's casting before it even gets briefed out.
Right. Yeah.
So I guess that's the beauty of being in one of those agencies, but then you're in one of those agencies against all these top tier people,
Right.
and that trickles down.
Yep.
I guess if this person's on this role, that role, oh, now it's your turn.
Yeah. And you can
So
get lost.
You
too.
can get lost, and you know what they say about if something's really shiny, you know. So it's important to feel that you've made the right decision because you've connected with your agent.
Yeah.
I hear people, you know, when I'm doing interviews that say, oh, my agent had never met me in person and I wouldn't dare call.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, how do they know what you can do?
Right.
You know, because sometimes I guess people operate a different way. If you have that kind of relationship with your agent, I think you need to rethink it.
Yeah.
Because you need to be comfortable to be able to,
Pick up the
communicate.
phone. Right.
Yeah, pick up the phone
Yeah.
if you need to. Otherwise, email.
What's been the most rewarding part of this career for you?
The most rewarding part, I think, is watching someone grow from nothing into something amazing. So that, like those journeys, and I could probably count about 6 people in the last maybe 10 years that have gone from nothing to something. Some of them are still with me, some of them aren't, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It's that satisfaction, I guess, that you were a part of that journey.
Right.
And at some point, you worked together and collaborated on what's next and what should, do this course, work with this coach, and you feel like you've really been a part of that whole journey, I guess. It's really exciting for me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I might throw it open to you guys. If you want to just throw up your hand if you have a question for Sonya. And I might just repeat it back just for the sake of sound.
When we're applying to a talent agent and we're sending through our resume, like we do our headshots or show reels, with our resume, should we put on it everything that we've done, or should we be streamlining that to like the top work that we've done?
If it's from 1974, I wouldn't put it on. Just,
How old do you think I am?
No, some people will go to when they were 5, they did their dance school concert.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. Anything that you feel would attract that agent into signing you because you've just done some work. All short films should be listed, feature films. When you put up, I did this short film and I played a role of an extra. Just write nurse.
Yeah.
Never write extra.
No.
Because when I see extra, I go, oh, a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that's what most agents will think. I think all your best work. So if you're looking for a screen agent, like a film and television agent, well then you should list all your screen work first, not all your performance, like singing, concerts and things like that. If you're looking for a musical theatre agent, well then you should really list what you've done in musical theatre and stage so that the agent wanting to sign you gets excited. Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Thank you.
Another question? Yeah.
What about if you speak multiple languages? Would you include takes doing scripts, just takes short snippets of the languages you speak?
I always I get very excited by people who can speak different languages. And I always ask them to put down a scene in their own language.
Okay.
And I always say, don't go and, rewrite a scene from something. Think about an experience in your culture and just write a short little piece. And that's going to be more believable than, something that you're going to try and fake, I think. But I love people who put down different languages, for sure.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
On the point of other languages, in the tape, would you like us to include English subtitles as an option if we're doing a tape?
That's an interesting question, yeah, because I never know what they're saying. It looks good. Yeah, if you can do that, yes, that would be great.
Include subtitles.
Yeah.
Great. Yes. Yeah, Grassy.
How important to you or potentially other casting agencies social media presence and profiles? Like there is a big kind of movement around the influencers and bringing that into kind of the broader screen media. How do you actually look at that?
That's a really interesting question because in the past I didn't think it mattered until one of my clients was cast in a show and they were really impressed with her social media. She had incredible TikTok following and everything, and she did get cast in this show, and the talk was social media. So I guess if she went up against someone who was similar to her but didn't have an audience, that would be appealing to someone who's trying to sell that show to an audience. What should your social media reflect? Like, are you, she has an incredible following in the LGBT community. So I guess what is your voice on social media, and how are you coming across? Because you have to think about what you're putting up there. You know, if you're partying hard and you got alcohol and you're smoking a bong or whatever you're doing, some people might put that on there, and all of a sudden now you're auditioning for Neighbours, or you're auditioning for a Disney film. Like, you have to think about the long-term effect of what you're putting out, always. Yeah.
Question I was going to ask earlier, how important is it, do you think, for actors to consider creating their own work, their own opportunities, or even putting out work like sketches on social media?
Yeah.
Does that make a difference?
Yeah, definitely. Do you know Neil, the comedian, the Indian?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Neil, I discovered when he was about 16.
Oh,
And
wow.
I signed him while he was in high school. I discovered him at a drama school that I went to look for people. And I had him for about 2 years, and we couldn't get him in the door. And, you know, he came in for a meeting when he was finishing school, and he's like, I just don't know, maybe I should give this away. And, you know, we had a little discussion. I said, well, what else do you do? And he said, oh, I do little skits. And I said, kind of skits. So it was like little comedy skits. So I said, okay, send some through. And at that point, I think it was YouTube and Facebook and all of that was starting. But he sent some things through, and he had us all in stitches, like, you know, the Morrissey agents, all of us were in there watching these tapes, and we thought he was hilarious. And, you know, we talked about that, and I said, you're really good at this. You should just put this out there. And he said, do you think it would be damaging to my career? And I said, absolutely not, because some of his skits were a bit, you know, sketchy. But, you know, it worked well for him. And he got a stand-up manager in Melbourne and did stand-up everywhere, and then got involved in a few different shows, I guess, you know, comedy-type shows on the ABC and different things. And now, from my understanding, he works with the ABC and he's writing and producing.
Yeah.
So he's just come such a long way from that young boy that was 16.
Yeah.
He finished high school and said, I should give this away because I can't even get in the room. So he found his niche, you know, he found out who he is, and it worked for him.
Do you think it's okay for actors to post self-tapes on their social media? No, obviously not something they've auditioned for, but something that they've...
I think don't post a whole scene. I think you should post little snippets of your self-tapes that are really interesting.
Yeah.
And, you know, now with TikTok and everything, no one's got patience.
Right.
And whatever captures your eye, you're going to watch. So, you know, if you've got something and it's really interesting, they'll play it again because it's only like 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever it is, you know.
Right.
So I think the snippets are the best part of your tape rather than the whole tape. And always get permission if you've auditioned for something.
Yeah, don't post something you've auditioned for.
Don't let your agent get a call from the UK saying you better take that down because we're going to sue you.
Yeah.
And you didn't know about it.
Have you ever signed somebody off of something that you've seen online on social media, like something that they've posted? Does that ever happen, or you'll call them up or ask for a meeting?
I have approached a few people through social media. It's really hard because I don't like...
You don't want to poach someone.
I don't like to poach. And sometimes they'll put that they've got an agent and sometimes they don't. And I look at it and I think, surely you have an agent.
Right.
So sometimes I'll look them up on Showcast and I'll find that, oh yes, they've got an agent, that's my friend, I'm not doing that. But yes, I will approach somebody if I feel that they've got a great social media presence and they've really thought about, you know, what that looks like in business terms, because it is a business.
Right.
And you're a product, so now who's your market? You've got to think of all these things. But I have, yes, on many occasions.
Interesting, great.
Yeah.
Any other question? Yes.
Do you find actors are more successful when they specialise in a particular field, or can they do multiple things, so like screen, musical theatre?
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah.
Look, I think that if you have had the training for all these things and you're passionate about them, you're going to want to do anything that comes through because you've trained and you live for it. I think if you're an actor, screen actor, and now all of a sudden you heard that it might be good to do musical theatre, and now you're having training in singing, but it's not really your thing. So I'll tell you a little story about a producer I just spoke to in one of the musicals, which I won't name. And what happens is people will get into a musical for 3 months and they call that the honeymoon period. And then they realise, I have to do this 7 nights a week? And like they freak. They have injuries, all sorts of things happen, and that's when they start to drop off, and all these musicals will put the audition briefs out and now they're looking for these characters again. So it is a different world to the acting world, but I think if you're part of that world, by all means, you should always audition for whatever, you're good at. Yeah.
Question, Dion.
I'm wondering what your thoughts are on dual management in the sense of some people tend to have modelling agencies and acting, and if they want to be an actor or something like that. And is there is that a strict no that you kind of have because there can be crossover, or is there a way that you can manage where the modelling is strictly nothing to do with like filming or TVCs, it's strictly like photography and catwalk?
Yeah, well, I have got a few clients that have modelling agencies. It just needs to be very clear. So the modelling agent can only put you forward for catwalk or print, photography, any of that stuff. The only time it crosses over is commercials.
Yeah.
And this becomes a very blurry grey area for me, because I've put a client forward for something and rang up casting saying, I can't believe you're not getting this person in. They're amazing. They're perfect for this. And they're saying they're sitting in the waiting room. Their modelling agent has sent them through. So that looks really silly. So if you have a modelling agent that can work with your agency and they're prepared to give that side of it to your agent, because no agent is going to work with you if they can't make any money from you, because it could take 3 years for you to land a job. So, they do rely on that commercial income to come through to keep things going. But I always like to meet the modelling agency, have a chat, and work out what our splits are. And I do this with management companies. If I feel like my clients are at a certain level and I'd like to bring someone else in, we collaborate and we just know where our place is and who looks after which market. And that can work really well. Yeah.
And for any actor directors that might be out there, how do you see directing, perhaps if they've done short films and things like that, how do you think they can use that to sell themselves as an actor?
Like if they've done directing?
Yeah, if they do directing to an agency, is there any benefit in bringing that in?
There are some agents that look after creatives, okay? And if that is something that you want to pursue more than your acting, if your acting is just a side hustle but you really want to do that, I think you should be with someone who specialises in that. Or if your agent can now find someone to collaborate with that looks after directors or writers, and I've done that with a few of my clients. I've got a relationship with a literary agency. So it just depends, I guess, on whether these two people once again would like to work together.
Totally, and I mean that's a really good answer. Thank you. I mean, if they kind of, I suppose, want to show that if they've done things in front of camera and they've also done a whole lot behind camera, they really know how sets work and things like that. How can someone use that resume of just film credit, both in front and behind, in any way to make themselves more desirable to be signed, to show experience on set? Should they kind of resume a bit of their film stuff?
I think it should be listed in, there's training, and then you can put other skills. I think you should list it. But when you have your meeting, if they call you for a meeting, it's something you should discuss. Because in that initial meeting is everything I remember about you.
Yeah.
So that 1 hour I spend with you, I get to know who you are. And then from there, we build a relationship. So yeah, I think you should definitely discuss it with your agent or manager, whoever you sign with.
Thank you, Sonya.
Great, yeah.
Hi, thank you for your time.
Thank you for listening.
Great. Quick question. So you mentioned earlier that when you're looking for a stage and screen actor, you should submit to you a couple of scenes. In terms of musical theatre specifically, what are you looking for when someone's sending?
I'm finding a trend is happening with musical theatre people. They're doing show reels. So you get a vocal show reel, which is usually a verse and a chorus in musical theatre style. Obviously, the song that you're the best at, because that's what you want to show. And then they do a dance reel, which is once again only a couple of minutes to showcase what you can do. And then when you have never done a musical before and something comes up, we really believe that you're great and we've pitched you and now they haven't asked for you, so now I have this material and I call up the producer and I say, you have to see this person. You know, this happened with one of my girls from Melbourne, one of my young girls, while Tina was auditioning. She was on Australia's Got Talent.
Right.
Incredible talent.
Wow.
And I pitched her while she was on that before they even looked at kids.
Right.
And they weren't even looking at Melbourne. So she ended up coming to Sydney to do the whole season because, you know, we had material to show.
Yeah, and do you think that in terms of how that's structured, would that be a small clip with all of those things combined into one?
Separate.
Or you
Keep your singing separate
Yeah.
and your dance separate.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Would you say when an actor is submitting to you, should they have like just one show reel with all of their little snippets from different self-tapes, or would you prefer them as individual clips?
I think if you've got material from professional work, so if you've done films, short films, TV, and you've put that into a show reel, I think that should be one show reel.
Got it.
So if you're sending scenes, you might want to send me 2 or 3 contrasting scenes to show me the different styles of acting. I prefer them to be separate.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm watching 7 minutes.
Yeah. And I know you said that 2 to 3 minutes for each scene. Would you be open to just even like the best minute?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when I say 2-3 minutes, I mean show reels.
Right. Okay,
So if
got
it's
it.
a scene, it doesn't need to be 2 to 3 minutes long.
Right. Yeah.
And it should be maybe the best parts of that scene.
Yeah. Great. Thank you
Because
for clarifying.
yeah, because unless I'm submitting it for a role, it's really just for me to see the best part. Yeah, to engage me, I guess.
And
I'm not that person.
how often would you send to casting a self-tape just to say you really need to see this actor? I think they're right for this role.
Okay, so casting has obviously been seeing my people over time and they have an opinion of them. So I've got someone working with you one-on-one and we're producing these amazing tapes and the actor's sending them to me and I'm watching and now one of them just blows me away. That is how one of my clients got onto Neighbours. At the time he was working with Les actually and sent me this tape and I just freaked. So I rang up Thea and I went, look, I know you're probably not casting anyone of this nationality, but do you want to look at this tape just in case? And then as it turns out they were. And he got flown down to Melbourne to audition and ended up getting a 3-year gig which turned into 5 years.
Wow.
So that was just based on a tape
Yeah.
and a gut feeling.
Yeah.
Sent it to the casting director at the right time. Got very lucky. But, if someone has progressed and just say I'm having a lot of trouble getting them into one of the casting directors who's quite set on, what they think about that person, and now they've just given me this tape that's like amazing. So I'll send it and I'll call.
Yeah, great.
And I'll say, okay, have you had a chance to see this? Because you have to see it. And that's when they'll watch it.
Yeah, is it hard to change a casting director's mind if they've already sort of made up their mind about an actor?
You can change their mind by
Doing great work.
doing really good work.
Yeah.
And they might have an opinion of you and not brought you in for anything, and now you've cast a role with a different casting director who gave you a chance.
Right.
And now all of a sudden everybody wants you
Right.
because now you're hot right now. you know? So it doesn't. You don't have to just crack one person in this industry. If you get no's, just keep looking. If people say no, just go, okay, well, I'm going to try this casting director. Or don't do the workshops unless you're, like I think I mentioned that before.
Ready. Yeah.
I really, really don't want to stress that enough to you because it can hold you back.
Yeah.
And it makes our job hard.
Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
got that.
Yeah.
Questions? Yes, Alex.
You mentioned special skills, like things like boxing or martial arts, stuff like that. How do you like actors to show you that? Like just in clips or?
Yeah, the same as you would in a show reel. the same as you would in a dance reel. Like, you know, keep it short, but show, you know, the different levels. You know, boxing's, I guess, one of those things, you know, if you're a girl and you're boxing, you want to show that strength. You know, you might box with somebody who's, you know, a big guy in the scene to show your strength. So just be creative with it, but yeah, just have a little scene that's separate to your acting, for sure.
Did you like them as like separate clips?
Yes, I do, yeah. Yeah, it's easier to send, just say there's an audition for a boxing film and they want this girl who can box, but your scene that you've got, you know, 3 or 4 other things in there, you're singing, your dad, whatever, they don't want to see that. So I like to keep these things separate. It's really easy to just send the right thing.
Right.
They don't want to sit through it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and those special skills are just another way for you to stand out.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm working with a guy at the moment who's like a professional skateboarder, and
Wow.
I find as soon as a skateboarding film is being made, he is like, he's got the best chance in town out of
Exactly.
everybody.
And same with surfers.
Totally. Well, he
Wow.
he got down to the last couple of Barons, and
Right.
he hadn't acted yet just because he
Wow.
could surf. So
Yeah.
so those skills really help. Yeah.
Thank you. Just on top of the special skills, going back to accents really quick, is it a smart idea to also have a showreel specifically catered towards American, UK sort of accents as well? Because then that means you can just
Yes.
send them straight off.
So once again, separate clips.
Yeah.
So once we work together, I have a file with everything from you.
Yeah. Wow.
So there's always, you know, individual clips and I label all those. So when an audition comes through and it requires something and I think you'd be perfect for that, let's see if you can do that. And now I've got all these other little clips I can send through and they're separate. So once you put them together, what the casting director wants to see might be at the end of 3 minutes. They're not going to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Questions? Yeah.
Sorry, is there a good or bad time of year to approach an agent for representation?
Yes. Yes. The end of the year.
Yeah.
Like the end of the year, around September, we start to get all the invites for
Grad
all
season.
the grads, showcases,
Yeah.
performing arts schools. Because I look for talent that's upcoming, I get all the dance schools too, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to do is meet someone and my head not be there. Because I'm meeting you to make you happy, but I'm not really into it, you know?
Yeah.
So I could miss out on someone amazing. I think just at that time of the year, agents also aren't signing because they want to see all the grad schools, and then they'll take all of January. So they'll meet in December and January and decide who they're taking on, and now they've got some spots left and they know where they can place people. Because honestly, it's changed so much.
Yeah.
Everyone's fighting for the same person in the grads. Like, you know, it's hilarious. I find it funny.
Yeah, they all want that.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
yeah.
we all want that person.
Star student.
Yeah,
So then, would you say around February is a good time to approach?
February, yeah.
February
Like
should
I'm
be
just
full.
starting to take meetings
Right.
now
Yep.
because it's eased off a little bit. But what will happen now until end of financial year, everyone will want to get their projects done. So we'll get this huge influx of commercials and things because everyone wants to spend money before end of financial. So, you know, at the end of May, it'll start to die down again because now no one wants to spend any more money. So it'll be quiet again. So I reckon around June is a good time again. So,
Right.
yeah.
And if somebody is approaching you with a cover letter and an email, what would you like them to say? How would you like that letter to be addressed and
Some
format?
people send through like recommendation letters and all sorts of things. Honestly, for me, I'm not speaking for every other agent. I just want to see your headshot, your CV, to see what you've done, what kind of training you've had, and then I want to see a tape. I want to see what you look like, what you sound like, and who have I got in competition to you.
Yeah.
I don't need to, and to be honest, if the email's this big, I'll get back to that, and 3 months later it's still sitting there because I've forgotten.
Yeah.
So keep your emails brief and just have those 3 simple things. That's all we need to see.
Would you mention in the email anything in particular that might already be in the CV, but something specific that you think you might want to know about?
I think if you've
Like-
trained with really good people, I would mention it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if I know someone's training with you or you know, other actors, other coaches that I'm aware of that are great, it inspires me. Or, you know, I've just graduated from WAPA or I've just graduated from NIDA is in the body of the email. And then I go, oh, let me have a look.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But if you don't say that and you say, I'm a young actor looking for an agent, I heard about your agency, before I even open, I might go, oh, I haven't got time for this right now. But if I see something that catches my eye, I'm more likely to open it.
Any final questions out here? Yeah, Simon.
You said you help clients progress. What are some common challenges you find with your clients and how do you help them overcome them?
The rejections are really hard
Yeah.
for the clients. And it's working through this. This is a whole
Mindset.
you know, a mindset. You know, it's becoming a mental health problem.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm even people that I know really close to me. So rejection is really hard to take if you take something personally. Someone made this really amazing analogy that I thought, wow, that's a great way to look at it. She said, if I yell at you in Spanish and say the worst things to you, you're going to laugh at me because I sound funny.
Yes.
You don't know what I'm saying,
That's
right?
It doesn't mean anything.
Because it doesn't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
But if I say it to you in English, you're going to go, you think I'm that? What?
Yeah.
So if you get rejected and you think it's something you did, you're going to handle that really hard. But if you get rejected, you need to know that sometimes you just weren't the right look. You just didn't sound right. Your voice might not have been what they wanted. Your hair colour might not be right. You might look like their girlfriend or boyfriend that they broke up with last month. They don't want to work with you for 6 months. You're going to give them trauma. So you have to think about all these things that it's not personal. And you just got to go, water off a duck's back next. What am I doing next? But, you know, you need to talk about these things with your agent. If my actor's going through a hard time, I want them to feel comfortable enough to tell me. If they're going through a difficult time and you know, they've just got evicted and they don't know, you know, they're in a really hard mindset and I've got this huge casting that's come up. You know, they have to be able to say to me, I just can't do that right now. Without thinking, oh my God, she's going to drop me. So we need to have that kind of relationship. Does that answer your question? Yeah, great.
Just finally, any memorable experiences or any funny stories that have happened over the last many years as an agent?
Exciting stories.
Sure, exciting
when
stories.
When I was working with the Morrissey group,
yeah,
we were having a Christmas party and we'd set up the tables and everything and it was really chill. And I was downstairs sitting there with everyone and Liam Hemsworth walks in and sits next to me. I'm like, does this happen all the time? You know, I was in the office with Warehouse and Michael used to look after Hugh Jackman and there was a meeting once and, you know, who walks in? So these things are quite exciting and, you know, but it makes you think, these people are just like us.
Yeah.
You know, they were just like you one day. Trying to just get through that first door.
Right.
And getting through that first door is the hardest. So I guess it's knowing the industry and how it works and not letting that affect you. Funny stories, geez, you know, I could get myself in trouble. I should probably not. But you know, it's a really beautiful job for me. Like I absolutely love it. And every single person is so different. It's like opening up, you know, your favorite box of chocolates. There's always these different ones in there. And that's what we're looking for. You know, what flavor do I not have in my box of chocolates?
Right.
So you've got to stand out. And when you approach an agent or a manager, I guess, don't be afraid because you're hiring them. Okay?
Yeah.
Yes, they're also taking you on, but you're hiring them. And I often hear a lot of actors that, you know, are quite broken from the experience of that. You know, you can walk away, no one's going to blacklist you, no one's going to cut you out of the industry and all of that stuff, which people sometimes threaten. And, you know, young people who are starting out really believe that. None of that exists. Casting does not care who you're with. I can tell you that now. You could be with an agency that started down the road last week.
Yep.
If that agent puts you up for a role that that casting director's looking for and they love you, they don't care. They're going to hire you. So don't think it's just about who's my rep. It's who you are. And can you work with your rep? That's what's important, I think.
Well, on
Yeah.
that note, what a great way to go out. Total pleasure to have
Thank you.
you. And,
It's been a
and
pleasure. I hope you got something out of it. And
I know we all did.
yeah.
Guys, thank you all so much for coming.